Good evening, Chicago. This is Jerry Vassilatos for Chicago Corner, and I'm joined with Kit Cabello from Hardlens Media.
It's a real pleasure to be back on Chicago Corner. It's really good to see just how fast this channel is growing and all the good work that the team is putting into this. I mean, it's
Kit, I don't think your microphone is. I'm not getting a signal from your mic. I mean, I can hear you, but it sounds like you're off camera.
All right. Let me go ahead.
Okay.
Why don't you put on a wide shot, and I will.
You got it. No problem.
Sorry about that, folks.
No worries. Technical problems are what we are all about here on Chicago Corner.
All right, I think now I'm better.
You are there. Absolutely. We can hear you terrifically. Okay.
All right. Well, I guess it's a growing trend. Apologies to E. Heller. I know that he's been a heavy stickler with us for audio. So, yeah, a lot of things we got to work, but it just goes to show everyone that, hey, we all make mistakes, but now let's have a fun show.
Absolutely. So we're waiting for Jay Mall to join us. I did get confirmation from his assistant that he will be joining us soon. So
Fantastic.
We can continue our conversation and interview with the developments regarding the Majostee All Stars. But I thought I'd have Kit on in the beginning of the show here because we've had a really pretty busy news day.
Well, first and foremost,
also the Chauvin verdict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, one thing I do want to just acknowledge, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jamal Green on our show because, number one, I actually had the privilege of interviewing him and the numerous other mayoral candidates last election cycle in 2019, and he was one of the few progressives or people that actually were progressive running in that election. And I was really impressed with the work that he's been doing since then. And it's going to be really exciting to see what he has to say, especially getting his thoughts about what's happening in City Hall and a lot of the heavy controversy that's been going on there.
Yeah, I had a really great conversation with him the last time we were covering the Majostee All Stars initiative down in Auburn Gresham. And, since that time there had been some developments, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers that perhaps Jay Mall will enter the mayoral race next time out because I think he's got a lot of really good ideas. He's certainly proven his track record with everything he's been following up in civic service here in the city of Chicago. I'm actually going to once more. I'm on with his executive assistant, and I hope he has the link here.
Mm-hmm. That's perfectly fine. Well, then I will go ahead and throw some airtime. So
Sure.
Again, to everyone that's watching us here at Chicago Corner, I know that right now one of the big news that's happening here in our city was, of course, Mayor Lightfoot and her back and forth arguments with the city council. And once again, being very antagonistic to anyone that's been critical of her and her administration. I know that Jerry, you and E. Heller have been sharing a lot of articles, especially with right now photos that are being shared all over social media, especially living in the city of Chicago, just really how confrontational our mayor is. And again, I just can't help but think of when we first started doing Chicago Corner way back in 2019, how we actually did cover an article about where it supposedly or was rumored that Mayor Lightfoot has thin skin in regards to taking criticism. And now we're seeing the whole thing fall apart. And I am deeply concerned about another potential, huge clown car of different candidates coming out, because I think one of the problems that really hurt the progressive candidates during the last mayoral election cycle was that there were so many choices and very few Chicagoans even know when our municipal elections take place. Very similar to midterms, there is always low voter turnout, and especially during a mayoral race where there's like 16 plus candidates. That primary is important because you want to have the strongest candidates in the race that are going to do the best job. And sadly, the progressives were silenced out by the more establishment candidates. And for a time, at least until we knew better, Mayor Lightfoot or former candidate Lightfoot was the better of the two choices. And I know what some people are going to say, well, this is Chicago politics. They're really, how can you say there's a lesser of two evils when, well, if you look at Tony Prewinkle's campaign, it was a disaster and completely out of touch. And a lot of people had high hopes for Mayor Lightfoot at the time. We just got done with Mayor Rahm Emanuel, and now it looks like nothing has fundamentally changed at all.
Well, a lot of people say that our elections in Chicago really are decided during the primary. I mean, ultimately, you come down to those two choices. But yeah, and then it becomes the choice of the lesser of two evils. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what candidates decide to step forward from the progressive side. I know we're going to be doing a lot of work on Chicago Corner as well as Hardlens Media to help the public vet those who are really progressive, who step forward and throw their hand to affect some change in Chicago, aside from these, I feel, token gestures, as we just saw demonstrated today with, spending so much time changing the name of a street, as opposed to dealing with larger issues like what started the chaos at City Council midweek with the decision to focus on the Corporation Council. Celia Meza, they were arguing her appointment as Mayor Lightfoot's Corporation Council because Celia Meza wants to dismiss the lawsuit that was brought by Anjanette Young for the cops busting into her place. I think it was a few years ago while she was in a state of undress. They completely bungled where they were the suspect that they were pursuing and traumatized this woman. And now it seems that the city just wants to wipe it under the rug after Mayor Lightfoot had made some assurances to Anjanette Young. This is the stuff City Council's got to spend more time focusing on.
Sorry, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, looking at how our city council's been acting, and especially our mayor, look, I think if we focus, ideally, I would like our city council and our mayor to focus on, dealing with the lead in our drinking water, making sure our schools are properly funded, especially making sure those 54 Chicago public schools that were shut down under Mayor Rahm Emanuel's administration are actually fully functional and are available for all the students living in those communities. How about, again, making sure our mental health facilities are fully funded? How can we ever forget that under Mayor Rahm Emanuel's watch, half those facilities were shut down? Look, there's unchecked corruption, and maybe it's a bold move, but how about making sure that people can live in this city? Already, there's been numerous reports about how people are at risk of being evicted from their homes and from their apartments. We're seeing small businesses being shut down all across this city. There's unchecked environmental racism, as there's environmental pollutants or heavy industry in South Side and West Side communities. I think our city council is ignoring the bigger picture. Now, I get the whole idea of naming Lakeshore Drive, whatever. It is what it is. I don't care about that. If you want to rename something, fine. That's great. Go ahead. But that should be at the bottom of the list, not priority one, because we're still dealing with the aftermath of 2020. Just because it's 2021, all the problems we dealt with in 2020 are still with us right now. And people are still struggling to make ends meet. People are wondering whether or not they're going to have a roof over their head. And there's a lot of small business owners wondering, how are we going to survive in a city when our city council and our mayor are ignoring us? It's another day in Chicago, and nothing is getting done. And that's why going into 2023, Chicago Corner, I'm really having a lot of confidence in this network that we're building on covering the stories and actually making sure here, hopefully we build a strong Chicago audience so that people know that 2023 is when our next city elections will be. And it's going to be very important to people to turn out and also vote in people that actually care and love their communities and care and love for this city. I'm getting really sick and tired of seeing corporate media, not just Fox News, but corporate media in general, painting Chicago as corrupt or that there's nothing but violence. That's all over this country. I mean, we see that in everywhere. But I think what a lot of people forget is that, especially corporate media, that Chicago is filled with good people that want to have a nice, safe community all across the city. And I think this is a time right now where people need to speak out and get involved, because if we remain silent, we're going to probably get more heartless politicians or politicians that are so thin-skinned that they refuse to take any kind of criticism whatsoever.
That's well said, Kit. One of the things I was going to bring up in my conversation with Jamal when he logs in, specifically in regards to Auburn Gresham and what our city council is not doing. I'm going to share an article from Block Club Chicago. Actually, let me quote from it. I don't want to bring it up on screen since I've got you there. But this is in regard to, you ask yourself, when I read this article, what's city council doing about it? Because it's something that Mayor Lightfoot seems to have her hand in without, she's tone deaf, listening to the citizens of the community. Auburn Gresham residents don't want affordable housing development. They could end up with, so the headline, and this is from Block Club Chicago, if Auburn Gresham residents don't want affordable housing development, they could end up with nothing, city officials say. Auburn Gresham residents were told an affordable housing complex is the only option for their neighborhood, even though they want necessities like, ready for this? A grocery store. Auburn Gresham residents pushed back against the city's attempts to create affordable housing in the neighborhood during an explosive community meeting on Thursday. More than 6 dozen Auburn Gresham residents joined the meeting Thursday night, which was hosted by the Department of Planning and Development. The plan was to discuss the future of Auburn Gardens, a $20 million retail and residential space slated for vacant land at 838-58 West 79th Street, which I'm sure some developers in good with city planners are going to make a fortune off of with this affordable housing complex instead of putting more in the community. Residents have pushed back on plans for the development, instead saying they want more resources and businesses. But at Thursday's meetings, officials told them they can have the affordable housing project or they might not get a development at all. Isn't that wonderful community outreach, listening to what the residents want and need as opposed to what Mayor Lightfoot's telling them they're going to get, and that's all they're going to get? The affordable housing complex is part of the Invest Southwest plan, an initiative created by Mayor Lori Lightfoot to bring development to West and South Side neighborhoods. Evergreen Imagine JV, a joint venture between the Imagine Group and Evergreen Redevelopment, was the only bidder for the site and got the green light to move forward in March. At almost every community meeting, neighbors have pushed back against the idea of an affordable housing in their neighborhood. At a community meeting in April, more than 130 residents sounded off, bashing the housing and requesting more commercial-focused developments. At another meeting in May with Lightfoot, residents continued to share their frustration about a lack of transparency from the city. This is what we're seeing over and over and over while they're wasting time in city council, street name changes, trying to dismiss lawsuits against citizens who've been unjustly traumatized by CPD. Some neighbors have asked the city to bring necessities such as a grocery store or pharmacy to the area before adding more residents. Makes sense to me. They've called Auburn Gresham the donut hole of the city. Others have requested officials focus on stopping crime in the neighborhood. At a June 9th community meeting, Alderman David Moore, that's the guy who's all about the name changes to Lakeshore Drive, said that without community approval, the affordable housing project would not go forward. Residents were asked to write on sticky notes what they envisioned for a brighter Auburn.
Sticky notes.
Sticky notes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we're solving the issue there.
Okay, so I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to let our audience that I've heard this before. I've seen this before, especially with how how there's a lot of emphasis on, well, let's build affordable housing. See, what I want our viewers to understand is this is how these large real estate developers move in, by making affordable housing, by trying to build more residential areas. It's an insidious plan. You could take many different ways of running this tactic. Either one, you make the area so violent where there's crime that's running unchecked, or you build an industrial facility that, again, causes citizens to move out, and that industrial facility is taken down a few years later, and then everything's cleaned up to make it look nice for quote-unquote correct people to move in. Or, again, building more residential areas, making the value of the community rise up, causing the original residents to move out, and then that's when they build the grocery stores and everywhere else because they want to do.
And they jack up the rents for those new people.
Yes, that's right. So the thing is, no matter what happens, the whole plan, especially for these real estate developers moving in, even if they're building quote-unquote affordable homes, the main goal is to remove the original residents of that said community so that much more affluent people can move in. And then that's when the grocery stores come in. That's when the pharmacy stores come in. That's when all the good things start coming in. And this is the problem with gentrification. This has been going on under Mayor Rahm Emanuel's watch and now Lori Lightfoot's watch. But, let's even include in the previous other mayoral administrations, as well as the city council that's turning a blind eye to this. This is something that we have seen before, and it's a very clever tactic, and I'm very glad that at least the residents of that community are speaking out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they want to have nice homes and housing areas, but what they're asking for is, can we have grocery stores? Can we have this? Can we have that? Because on the south and west side areas of Chicago, there are large food deserts, which means there aren't any grocery stores. So people don't have access to fresh fruit and other goods. So it's long overdue that the citizens of Chicago, especially on the south and west side areas, start speaking out. They have every right to be mad, and rightfully so. It's really sickening just to see how the communities on the south and west side have been treated so terribly for so long. And it's by design, by the city council, by previous mayoral administrations.
Yeah, and imagine the city also embracing what Auburn Gresham wants in the Majostee All Stars Youth Center that our scheduled guest Jamal is at the head of spearheading. And I'm still, we had this issue last week with the login. I thought we had it worked out. I'm in communication with his assistant, and he's supposedly on his way. They do have the link. I hope he's not having login problems again on that end, but. Yeah, a lot of these issues, especially in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood, that are affected by what kids growing up in that community have to deal with, directly tie in with what Jamal's trying to do with the youth center and how the city is once again tone deaf about that whole initiative and deciding to build the boys and girls, the Chicago Police and Fire Department training facility.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, yeah. So that's. A lot of what we're hoping to talk about with developments that have just happened with the city of the Department of Planning rebuffed Jamal again. I mean, I kind of want to not talk too much about Jamal because I want to talk about this with him and not go over the same territory. So anyway, I just brought up the Auburn Gresham story about the affordable housing as it kind of relates to the shenanigans of city council right now and what they focus on, what they make a priority and what they're not making a priority. And they're not making a priority of listening to the people in these communities who are desperately asking for the things that they really need, but are being told what the city thinks they need.
I just on a related subject too. Take for example, when Harlan's Media back in 2017, 2018, early parts of 2019, we were also covering the gentrification in the Pilsen community, where 10,000 residents have been displaced because of the unchecked gentrification that's taking place there. And the fact that we're seeing this get repeated over and over again and seeing it continue to be repeated over and over again throughout this city, it should show a lot of people, especially those who are progressives, who are community activists, who are community organizers. The fight is never over. You can never rest on your laurels, not in this city. In this city, look, Chicago, I love my city, I truly do, but we're number one in corruption. We're number two if you add in Washington, D.C., but we're number one. And the reason why it's like this is because it's by design, by our politicians. And it goes back to unchecked money in politics. It goes back to the fact that we have the Democratic machine. And this Democratic machine has been running rampant for so long. But the thing is, eventually all machines do break down. And the key factor that's going to cause its breakdown is when the people all across this city, not only on the south and west side, but hey, north siders too, we're all in on this together. Our city can be brought back from corruption. Our city can be brought back from the brink. It's just going to require large community activists and organizers, a large coalition to work together to fight for that better future. Oh, let's also acknowledge that one chat here. I live in the North Humboldt Park area, and it's a terrible area. Heard Amazon is going to open a warehouse on West Division and North Costner. Even with that, my neighborhood is still going to be terrible.
Yeah,
you know what?
Amazon gets the deals.
Yeah, Amazon, not only does Amazon get the deals, they get the prime real estate. And gee, I don't know. Will they be able to pay taxes? You know what's so funny is that when good old Rahm Emanuel was still our mayor, he was bending over backwards. It's so embarrassing just to get Amazon to move to the city of Chicago so it can have its quote unquote second headquarters, even though that whole big competition between the cities was ridiculous. I mean, at least here's to Emmanuel's credit. At least he didn't like sell out his city's name where one mayor said, hey, you could rename the city or you can make yourself mayor for life, Jeff Bezos. I mean, come on. It's just maddening to know that that's what's happening. But then again, too, more Amazon warehouse workers are realizing that they're being screwed over, and more of them are walking on the job. More of them are speaking out about the unjust business practices there. But the fact that, again,
the union busting, they're busting union all across. We were going to try to cover what was happening in Chicago. I know that there was a union organization effort. We reached out to the people organizing at Amazon here in Chicago and didn't get a response back from them. It's very difficult to connect with them. We're hoping to cover that in the future, but this is all related to the problem we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And I think here's the thing: as we grow for going forward, especially into the 2023 election cycle, we want to cover more of the corruption and also all the activists that are speaking out. And I saw someone in the live stream chat even say that Chicago is Gotham. Well, yay and no, because then I swear, if I have to open up my newspaper and hear about how the Penguin or the Joker has just robbed another bank downtown, I'm seriously gonna start getting teed off here. Okay,
we need a superhero to fight corruption is what we need, and that's going to come down to the candidates that emerge.
Yeah.
I will say, in preparing for tonight's show, with all the things that were covered by City Council today, E. Heller had mentioned something about the fact that they did address lead in the drinking water. Now, I haven't caught up on the details regarding what City Council discussed in relation to that. Kid, had you heard anything? I can look it up right now.
Let's, because I know it's in our Chicago Corner Slack. So if we can maybe pull that up and we can talk about that.
I've never used the Slack, so I don't know how to bring that up.
Oh, okay.
But I can check lead in water. Well, Kit brings that up. Lead and water. Chicago.
Actually, I can help out. So
okay,
my phone was on the other side. So okay. There we go. So let's go ahead and pull that up and start talking about how the City Council for the first time in a long time started addressing there's lead in our drinking water. So just to remind our audience, when we talk about lead, this is the kind of same stuff. This is the kind of same situation that's impacting cities like Flint, Michigan, where, you have, tainted water.
Kid, can I interrupt you for just a moment?
What's up?
We have a guest. There's our man.
Oh, fantastic. So here,
welcome, Jamal.
All right. Well, I'll just wrap this up very short, and that way we can have Jamal Green speak truth to power and speak his mind out, especially about what's happening. So real quick, just. Well,
his mic wasn't connected. I think we lost the connection. Let's give him a moment to try to log back in. But please continue what you're. I just didn't want to lose him while I was trying to connect him in.
Okay. Real quick.
Lead in the water. What you're seeing on
what we see with Flint, Michigan, there is lead in Chicago's drinking water, but it's impacting a lot of communities all across the city, just not on the south and west side. It's all over. And the reason why is because we have outdated infrastructure and the city poorly planned its update for our clean drinking water. So a lot of communities all across the city of Chicago are drinking in tainted water. And in 2018, myself and my colleague Daniel Lupker, we actually covered a lot about the lead in our drinking water, and we did a short documentary a while back in Indiana on how there is heavy industrial facilities dumping quote unquote regulated toxic waste into Lake Michigan. And what a lot of people need to realize about Lake Michigan is that the water currents eventually come back to Chicago. So it's not only lead that we're drinking, but it's also other dangerous pollutants as well. But I don't want to take too much of your time away from Jamal Green. So I think I should be exited out of this. Okay. Jamal Green, it's a real pleasure to have you on Chicago Corner. Jerry, take it away.
All right. Jamal, are you with us?
Oh, shoot. What happened to my camera?
Oh, I'm not sure. It looks.
All right.
We're almost there, everybody. He's with us. You can hear him.
Jesus Christ! I don't know why it doesn't like this link. It keeps kicking it out. All right, 2 seconds.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna stand by here while and Kit, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I wanted to. Okay, here he is. Kit, thank you. I'm going to grab Jamal so we don't lose him.
There we go.
You want to say anything? Say hello to Jamal really quickly.
Kit,
Jamal,
what's up?
It was a real pleasure to interview you way back in 2019. I want to say I'm very proud of the work and how you've been consistent, speaking truth to power and standing up for communities that need representation, not only in the South Side, but the West Side, but all over the city of Chicago. I've spoken highly about you on Hard Lens Media, and now more than ever, I think it's important that for the people of Chicago Corner to hear your voice about what's happening here in this city. We can be brought back on the brink of corruption, and it's people like you that's speaking truth to power. I'm going to exit out. Jerry, Jamal, have a fantastic show.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Jamal, thank you for joining us. I'm glad we were able to figure out what these what these issues were with the logging in, but it's a pleasure to have you back again.
Pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you.
It's been a really big day, especially I know that I was following you on Twitter with the Siobhan verdict. I do want to focus tonight's show on developments with the Majostee All Stars Center, but I wanted to give you the floor ahead of time, just if there's anything you wanted to relate regarding what we saw with the sentencing today.
Yeah, well, what we saw was what we expected. This is no surprise. We got black people and brown people all over this country in jail, prison for life sentences. I mean, you got a guy in 2015 who shot at police and got 736 years and didn't even hit the police officer. And you got situations like Jason Van Dyke, where he can shoot Laquan McDonald 16 times and he'll be home in about a year. He only had to do 3.5 years. You got Derek Chauvin, who kneeled on the neck of George Floyd and got 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and a judge not to give him the maximum sentence. I mean, the system is not working for us, and it's never worked for us, and it was not designed to work for us. And those jury of his peers and those judges are folks who uphold the same white supremacist values that America has upheld all these years. And so we're not surprised. We just got to keep fighting for tangibles, not holidays and symbolic gestures like kneeling in kente cloth like the Congress did last year.
Yeah, ice cream Pelosi. We couldn't even get up off the floor.
Right.
There's already been some chatter that they expect he's going to appeal. I was speaking with someone in my building, and they said, "Oh, can you still hear me?"
Shoot, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll continue with what I was going to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even if he ends up appealing this, there's a possibility a judge might review the case on appeal and say, you know what, you didn't get enough time. I'm going to add to your sentence. So fingers crossed, if they decide to play the game with appeal, there might be a chance that he ends up getting sentenced more years. But that's just something we're going to have to wait on and see if that happens. So, I don't know if you're able to hear that, but if he appeals.
See if a judge will give him more time.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, if he decides to play the appeal game, we can only keep our fingers crossed the judge is going to say you didn't get enough time and maybe actually do more justice than this light touch that they've just given him in the 22 years. Yeah,
I mean, he got to do 14 plus. I mean, he'll be home when he's 50, 57, 58 and get a job doing construction and or a janitor for the Fraternal Order of Police and live a decent life.
So is that what happens? It's 14 years they come up for probation after
parole. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you see what happened in city council a few days ago in regards to the corporation council wanting to dismiss the laws? That's another one. It's just you want to talk about a tone deaf mayor. And when we're talking about the way that police traumatize our citizens, once again,
our citizens, another black woman.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Right.
Yeah. The Anjanette Young case, I actually was just getting in town and fell asleep and missed the press conference, but I was supposed to be there. But I brought Anjanette Young forward and her first press conference and talked about the injustice that they did to her. Right after I learned about it, I immediately contacted her and we immediately started working together on just how they treated her, in that home. And what we see is that the city corporation council, and I've been seeing this for years with many cases that I was I was a spokesman for the families who were fighting the police, is that corporation council seems to look at they discriminate against black victims and give them lower settlements. This isn't anything new. We got cases where white people were shot by police. And, like they had a situation not too long ago where a white police officer was shot by his friend who was a police officer at his home. And he was given, I believe he's paralyzed for life, and he was given like a $40 million settlement. But then when you got a kid who is out of foster care system, or a kid who's from a certain neighborhood, or a kid who comes from a certain background, what happens is their lawsuit is devalued because they look at them like they aren't worth anything based on their skin color, based on where they come from, based on their family, which is why they always try to be critical of, oh, look at his background. He was out doing this, or he was smoking drugs. He had drugs in the system, or he was in foster care, or he didn't have no parents. And they try to devalue them so much that when a jury or judge looks at a case and tries to value the monetary amount, they look at, oh, well, he wasn't going to be nothing no way, so we'll give him $500,000, opposed to a white kid who was on drugs and gang banging. A white kid would still get 10 times as much as a black kid. And that's what they're trying to do to Anjanette Young. And the lawyer is stepping up saying, we're not standing for it. The first settlement offer that they gave them was $0. And so they showed them how much they valued Anjanette Young. And it wasn't until all the videos came out and all of us ranted and raved about Anjanette Young that they came up with a small dollar amount. But he's just he wants the max, and he's doing his due diligence as an attorney. Can't blame him.
He's got to hold out for that max, because this is not equal justice.
Nope.
In any way. And when corporation counts, well, we see that a lot, even in situations like what happened with George Floyd, how, immediately there was this campaign to smear him. Like anything in this man's past had anything to do with this white cop deciding he was going to choke him out on the ground by kneeling on his neck the way that he did. Completely unrelated. I mean, I don't care what George Floyd's background was. Nothing.
Right. Nothing matters. Nothing matters.
It matters at all with how the police decided to abuse their power and murder him.
Because did the police officer know that he was a drug addict, or he was any? They didn't know any piece of background that they try to throw on him. I don't care what he indulged in. I don't care if he drunk every night. I don't care if he didn't have family. I don't care if nobody ever cared about him. He was still a human. And so you don't know, or you have no right to be the judge, jury, and executioner on these streets. And the reality is, you can't reform these guys. These guys don't care if the body camera's on. They don't care who's watching. Look at Derek Chauvin and how he kneeled on him 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And all them people around was yelling, get off of him, get off of him. Yeah. And Derek Chauvin stayed on his neck to make a statement that I don't care about you I don't care about you recording. I don't care about you yelling at me. I'm going to do what I want to do. That's why he should have got the max. And the reality is, these white supremacists in uniforms don't care who's watching. They're going to strike when they feel that it's time to strike.
This is the culture of the police in the United States of America. We had covered on the Hard Lens Media show, I think it was last month, this woman, I think it was in Texas, who had walked out of a Walmart and forgotten and she was a white woman, but she did you follow that story? I forgot the lady's name, but she was an older woman, and she had some loss of her mental faculty, and it was an accident. And she left the items there. Walmart still called the police, and they decided to arrest this woman when she was walking home picking flowers. She was an elderly woman. Right. And they assaulted her, and they dislocated her shoulder. They didn't report the fact that they'd injured her. They threw her in a this is the culture of law enforcement in this country, as they decide to treat all races. I mean, worse, people of color, absolutely, admittedly. But you got one rotten apple in the barrel, and they taint everyone else because the other cops don't speak up against it. And this is at the heart of what the problem is, I think.
You know what I say? There's no such thing as one bad apple in the bunch. Why I say that is because the system was designed exactly for how it's working. And when they created slave catching patrols, it ain't no way you can be a slave catcher patrol and be like, oh, well, I'm the good guy. I'm treating the slaves right. I'm treating them with respect, and I'm not over exuding my authority, even though I'm a slave catching patrol. That don't make you a good guy. You're just a person that was fooled to think that this system was actually made to work for the people. It was not made to protect and serve our residents. This system was designed in this white supremacist way in the 1820s when all of slavery and everything was going on. And it was reimagined into policing after folks were made free. So how can you be a good guy in a system that from the top is designed for you to sit around and go and act like, you're catching a slave, and that's how you treat the people in these neighborhoods, because that's the mindset and the design of this neighborhood. Go react to a phone call, respond aggressively, capture them, overexude your authority, make them feel like you're the boss and you have the authority and they have no right to disrespect you. And if it goes over and they die because of it, so what? I'm the police and I can do what I want to do. That's how it's designed. And
without
you can't
accountability.
be a good guy in that. Without no accountability. No.
The authoritarian mindset that's instilled in them.
And you get immunity for that. You get immunity for that. That's why these officers are getting a few years in jail, because they are treated above the law. If they were a regular citizen, if Jason Van Dyke shot Laquan as a regular white man, or Derek Chauvin did this to George Floyd as a regular white man, we know that he'll be in jail for the rest of his life. But because they have a badge, you are automatically given immunity.
Yeah. We lost your camera signal there. It might be, if you have a wired camera, it might just be a loose connection.
A loose connection. Yeah. Let me see. Hold on.
Okay. No problem. We can stand by. Yeah. I think he's absolutely right. It goes more beyond like the one bad apple tainting the bunch around him. There is definitely a culture that is instilled in our authoritarian police force.
Yeah.
So, Jamal, let's shift gears here, because I did originally invite you on the show last week as we saw some developments regarding the Majostee All Stars Center. And when I had Kit on earlier in the show, I had found another story that I feel is kind of related to Auburn Gresham.
Okay.
And I think that there is kind of a link, because it really speaks to the tone-deaf quality of the mayor and the disconnect between our city officials and actually listening to the community. And this came from Block Club Chicago. I'm going to repeat what I read as I was talking about it with Kit, and you're probably familiar with the story also.
Right.
So if Auburn Gresham residents don't want affordable housing development, they could end up with nothing, city officials say. Auburn Gresham residents were told an affordable housing complex is the only option for their neighborhood, even though they want necessities like a grocery store. Auburn Gresham residents pushed back against the city's attempts to create affordable housing in the neighborhoods during an explosive community meeting Thursday.
Yep.
More than 6 dozen Auburn Gresham residents joined the meeting Thursday night, which was hosted by the Department of Planning and Development. The plan was to discuss the future of Auburn Gardens. Residents are pushing back because they want more resources and businesses. You're familiar with all this. I didn't know if you participated in it.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to, I mentioned this story because it does, I think, relate a lot to what you've been doing with the Majostee All Stars Youth Center. You've been trying to put forward, and recent developments where, let me bring this up on screen here. Let me share my screen to the story that we had, and then we can kind of talk. There we go. Let me take our names off screen. So political feud escalates, and let me quote from the article so that people kind of bring people up to speed. Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox now cites Green's criticism of a plan for a new Boys and Girls Club on the Police and Fire Academy campus as a reason to block a youth center Green wants built in Auburn Gresham. Mayor Lightfoot has a new reason for putting a brick in the $15 million youth center that community activist Jamal Green is trying to build in Auburn Gresham. Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox is now citing Green's outspoken criticism of the mayor's plan to locate Chicago's first new Boys and Girls Club in a generation on the campus of the Police and Fire Training Academy being built in West Garfield Park. Green was quoted in the Chicago Sun-Times in May calling Lightfoot's decision to lease 20,000 square feet of land to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago a slap in the face to black youth.
Right.
Green sent, so the $1 a year lease for 75 years is sugarcoating a plan that is due to fail, referring to the controversial training facility. Green noted that the real investment is going to police. And I think many people would agree. That
Yep.
same day on May 27th, Green sent an email thanking Cox for touring the Auburn Gresham site. Maurice Cox, the commissioner of planning,
From Detroit.
where Green wants to demolish the shuttered Garrett Morgan Elementary School to make way for an 80,000 square foot job training and recreational center, tailor-made to help young people avoid becoming perpetrators or victims of gang violence.
Yeah.
You've identified the problem. You need the right kind of training facility to help the kids there. Much in the same way as the residents in the community are telling the city, we don't want affordable housing. We want grocery stores.
Right.
We want resources. We want you to put something in the community. So Cox replied,
Yeah.
he would be happy to continue the dialogue we started in Auburn Gresham if only Green would essentially learn to keep his mouth shut. This came from the Sun-Times. Your comments only undermined another potential partner, the Boys and Girls Club, in your youth-related efforts, Cox wrote. Before I attempt to engage, you'll need to figure out if your calling is to partner with the public sector or if you're satisfied with simply publicly criticizing. Let me know. Green stood his ground. Comments from me should have no bearing on what's best for the community. Are we playing politics here, or are we in this to save the youth? Please let me know, Green wrote. Maybe if the city moved faster on our project, my comments would simply be about the project we're trying to build. Now, here you've got Cox saying he'd be happy to continue the dialogue that you started in Auburn Gresham. Well, I invited Mr. Cox onto the show so we could have this discussion together. And I mentioned it to you ahead of time, and you were all for it. And I explained to Mr. Cox's representative through a media request, Mr. Peter Strasabosco, in planning and development, what our show was about, that we wanted to have a civil platform where you two could continue this conversation. And Mr. Strasabosco said, thank you, but we're going to decline. Further illustrating, they don't care what you're saying. They don't care what the residents in Auburn Gresham are saying.
No.
So with all of these developments, I wanted to have you on and share what's been going on since this article, which was published June 9th, and kind of bring us up to date on anything that's happened since then. Any I don't know, any dialogue, any positive developments, what's going on?
Well, let me just say, who as a mayor of the city of Chicago would choose a planning commissioner from Detroit? Okay. Like who? I mean, I don't know anyone.
The same one that would select a police chief from another
from
city.
Dallas. Yeah, but this is almost even worse, because you're talking about planning development, you're talking about economic development and housing, and then you look at Detroit and you're like, well, what have you done that even qualifies you to come to Chicago and tell us how we need to develop? Detroit isn't even developed. So maybe you need to go back to Detroit and put your expertise where you call home. Because right here in Chicago, we need somebody who understands this city. And obviously, he don't understand Detroit. And so my thing is, what kills me is that this dude from Detroit is reading my comments about projects in the Sun-Times and wants to tell me, oh, you need to figure out if you're going to make, first of all, you obviously don't know who I am, okay? He didn't know who I am and my influence when he met me. When reporters, if they ask me a question, of course I'm going to give them an opinion that is a best representation of the people that I represent, or the people that I come from, and the supporters, etc. And so if you don't like my comments, it has nothing to do with the simple fact that you are on city payroll and your job is to make sure that these projects get to the finish line. Now, my opinions, me liking you, me liking the mayor, it has nothing to do with the project that'll benefit the community. But he's just like the mayor. And I guess she liked him because of that. They would rather use their emotions and make it personal with how they treat city resources. And that is illegal. And we are prepared to file a legal dispute with the city of Chicago. That's the development, is that soon they will see us in court if it have to get that way, if it had to get to that. Because if you've seen this email and what's been published in the Sun-Times, you would know he crossed the boundaries as a city employee. You're not a politician. You have a job that you are appointed to. And so for you to tell me that you're not going to do your job because you don't like my opinion, that is borderline discrimination, equal protection laws. They're on the boundary of violating some laws and cause for a lawsuit. So the reality is that's the developments. Tomorrow we're having a big event over at the center, galvanizing the community and the people and talking about what's important to the community. And I'm looking forward to that.
So you guys are planning to move forward with a legal challenge against this?
We are ready. We have already retained our lawyers, and we have a full team of folks that's ready to act if need be.
It's going to be very interesting to see how the mayor responds to that, and how this guy Cox is just, throwing stuff at the Sun-Times.
Yeah,
literally like talking to you like a little kid. Keep your mouth shut. We don't want to hear from you. It's finger wagging. Right. Yeah. No, it's
what the mayor do.
Very, very alarming and disheartening, but it just kind of goes to everything else that we've seen as far as what city council is doing and how the mayor is responding or not responding directly to what citizens across the city of Chicago.
Yeah, they don't care because they don't understand these communities. They're not from these communities. So it's easy for them to just disregard these communities, which is why she went and got some developer from up north to come and build all these condominiums on the south side of Chicago. But the people feel left out of that. This is their community. And rather than focus on a plan on how you could repurpose city property and actually build housing and have a real housing program that people can really be a part of, and then have the condos and the center and the grocery store and all of these different things, you have a real comprehensive plan of how you're going to develop that community. You just want to, pat the pockets of your developer friends on one-off projects. No, we need real change, and a one-off project is the end all be all to that.
And this is what I was talking about with Kit earlier before you were able to join us, as far as this development, when the city basically gives the ultimatum, this is all you're getting. It's going to be this or nothing. There are going to be a lot of people that get rich off of this development, right? Yep. Instead of investment in the community in ways that the citizens want, with stores, with economic investment. And it's like the first steps of the gentrification. Kit was talking about this earlier. They put in this quote unquote low income housing project. They don't address the issues related to infrastructure, resources, stores. They drive people out of the neighborhood. They jack the rents up, and then they start putting in the higher end grocery stores and everything else. Yep. We've been seeing this. I think we saw this. I'm forgetting which neighborhood on the south side. This is like 5 or 6 years ago. I remember in the middle of the food desert. Englewood, that's what it was. Yeah, in the middle of the food desert when it was Mariano's was brought in.
Mariano's was brought into Bronzeville. And, Whole Foods was brought into Englewood.
Whole Foods is what it was. Whole Foods is what it was. Yeah. So what's on the schedule for tomorrow? You mentioned that the group is getting together at the site. Yeah,
we're doing a big barbecue. And I got the Jesse White Tumblers, South Shore Drill Team, many great performers, and the whole community is coming out. And we're going to talk about how to move forward our community. So happy about that.
What time will that be at?
That's at 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Here at Morgan Elementary School, which is 8407 South Kerfoot. There's only one street named Kerfoot in the city, so one block. And so you'll be able to find it.
So I think that Aviance, your assistant, said that she was going to send me the information. And once we finish this show, I'll put it in the show notes. But in the meantime, everybody who's watching, you can go down to the show notes. You can also sign the petition that Jamal has had online, I think, for the past couple of months. And it's actually got some pretty high numbers in support of the Majostee All Stars Youth Center. And I'm going to try to make it out tomorrow. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that whatever legal steps you take will support the efforts you're pushing forward, Jamal.
No, I mean, they have no choice but to either, move forward with our deal with the city or to put it up for bid and let the Board of Education vote for it. Either way,
they're just trying to sidestep the whole. They're just trying to sidestep any legitimate legal.
Delays.
Right.
Yeah, all delays. That's it. But they have to put this property out. and what they're doing is illegal by the fact that this is city property, and they're sitting on it and not allowing anybody to do anything with it. This is city property, and you either have to negotiate a deal with a great plan, or put it out for bid and let people bid on it, and let the Board of Education vote on the best plan for it. So I mean, either way, it's just about delaying it, in my opinion.
They're just holding it hostage until they can move forward with what they want to do over at the police and fire academy.
Exactly.
So had the plans with the city, I'm sorry, had the plans with the police and fire academy ever been proposed before? Or did that just come after you proposed what you wanted to do at the elementary school site?
So there was a plan, which is really funny. Emma Mitch, who is the alderman here, asked me many years ago to bring my center next to that police academy. I told her no. Okay, so they knew what I wanted to do already, and I said I did not want it anywhere close to the police academy. And quite frankly, I was a South Sider anyway, so it was an easy no for me. But they took the idea to bring a youth center next to the police academy, and so they found another group to do it. But originally, Emma Mitz asked me to do it.
So they're literally like trying to torpedo the efforts that your youth center will provide with training in a multitude of different areas, as opposed to you're going to be next to the police and fire academy, and those are the things that we want to train you for. Yeah. As they're reaching out to the youths in the community. Well, good luck to you, man. I really admire everything you're doing, and we're big supporters of what you're doing here on Chicago and Heartlands Media. That's what we love, having you come back and bring us up to date on stuff. And anything else that you're involved in right now you want to share with our audience?
Not yet. Big news coming soon.
Okay. Well, this is a big project as it is right now that you're focused on, and we're grateful for it. So listen, man, I'm glad we were able to get past the tech difficulties. It was a pleasure having you on again. I want to tell everyone else, please tune in with us next Tuesday, when we'll be back with Fear and Loathing in the Windy City. If it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. So have a great weekend, everybody. And Jamal, thanks again for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Be safe, Chicago.